What about the risks of? Can you talk about that? Maybe the risk to consumers that they're looking at. Of course, we're all very bullish, as you say, about technological change and opportunities that come along with it. But what are the things that we need to watch out for so that we make that transition smoothly?
You know, if there is one thing that is, that is primordial in all of the things that we're talking about right now, is about trust, right?
Okay.
If you are in the banking, financial service industry, your currency is trust, right? So, and that's why we're very, amongst members of the industry, we're very particular about it. So there is no competition when it comes to having to share data or having to share information when it comes to cybersecurity, right? So if you're talking about cybercrime, cyber fraud, cybersecurity, etc., this would be something that the entire industry would have to collaborate on to make sure that we have a united front. In fact, at the time of Governor Philip Medalla, we launched the Philippines' first industry-led nationwide campaign on cybersecurity education, and we called it the hashtag Wag Magpaloko Maging Scam Alerto. This was a concerted effort of all the industry players to come together and have forged that alliance together with government authorities. No, this would be led by the Philippine National Police, including the National Bureau of Investigation, as well as the regulators led by the BSP, and also social civic organizations, NGOs, and people's organization. Because if there is one vertical in that particular ecosystem, we have to ensure that the consumer groups or the consumers themselves should be part of the equation, because that's why I think we have seen quite a number of initiatives on how we can mitigate those risks in terms of cybercrime or cyber fraud. Like, for example, the swift passage of the SIM registration law, which is now which is now a law, right? And we've seen the massive campaign for all Filipinos to register their SIMs, right? But it seems that because the thinking then was that with the SIM registration, with the passage of the SIM registration law, as well as the compliance of all the Filipinos to register all their SIMs, we would see the decline or the eradication of those smishing or phishing or those SMS messages that you're still receiving until now.
You still get it,
until now, right? So that has been the main question I've been getting from the time that we ended the SIM registration campaign, right? Why is it that I would still be getting those unsolicited, messages that you won in a lottery, you just got promoted, or you have to claim this much money, etc. So I think, if I may say, one example that I would want to highlight here is there is this campaign from Singapore. In Singapore, what they did was kind of different. So what they did, they did a negative listing of all the SIMs. So practically all SIMs in the whole of Singapore, and you have to apply to reactivate that particular SIM. So it's not you registering that SIM, but you have to say that, for example, I'm Lito Villanueva. My SIM has a mobile number or a MIN or a mobile identification number, blah 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 number, right? So I have to prove that that particular number is really under my name or something like that. So that has been the campaign, but of course there's so much difference as well, because you're talking of 5 million or 7 million population in Singapore as against 110 million here in the Philippines. So I think there should be other initiatives or other interventions that we need to further push, because it seems that the SIM registration law is not the only solution for us to get rid of that issue on smishing and phishing, etc. So I think, as I've said, even the cyber, the fraudsters or the cyber criminals are very much advanced. No,
Sure.
that's why we really have to make sure that vigilance and resilience would have to be there.
And as you said, it's not ironclad, and I'm worrying also that maybe they would shift from the telcos to maybe social media, because there's a lot of messaging apps that people use, and you don't need to register a SIM card there. Is that something that you also worry about, or is that nothing really?
Well, definitely there's that concern as well there, because, and also I think awareness amongst our consumers, because let's admit this fact, wherein for some of our fellow Filipinos, they're so easy to be lured to provide their details, right?
Sure.
So, for example, if some would post their passports. I mean, good news! I just got my
Sure.
my passport
Share the social
renewed.
media,
From the DFA, blah blah blah, etc. And practically, you're now showing your all the details, right? Your birth date, your full name, etc., and your passport number. And practically, the fraudsters are having field day, right? I mean, and for example. Just having to greet someone, happy birthday, for example, showing all the dates, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, and remember, if you are one of those security questions, whenever for example, you ask for your credit card balance or your amount due, etc., the guy on the opposite line would be asking you for some security questions such as your date of birth, your middle name, etc. And practically, those data fields are already exposed, because you're also exposing it to some of those, to the public, right?
Sure.
So I think there should be that higher level of awareness amongst Filipino consumers that never share sensitive data.
Yeah.
And for some, a lot of cases wherein there is an account takeover because they practically provided their one-time passwords, right? So if I may, share to our audience, never ever share your OTPs or one-time passwords, because your OTP is just like the key to your house.
Right.
You don't entrust your key to a stranger.
Okay.
So you have to make sure that you have to be circumspect, and you have to be, conscious of those things, because again, fraudsters would be intelligent and would be there every day.
Yeah.
So we just have to be cautious.
Yeah, those precautions are make sense. But what I have a problem with is sometimes when you make those reminders, it seems like the burden is on the consumer. But what are we doing on the part of the institutions, so that maybe their data is better protected, that they're not breached or hacked, right? Because it's one thing to educate ordinary people, don't do this, don't do that. But again, what is the burden on banks, on telcos, or maybe even on government? Yeah.
Well, in fact, it's a collective effort, no?
Sure.
From government, from private institutions, even from the consumers. You're right. The consumers would have its responsibility to be aware, to be mindful of those dangers.
Right.
Of course, the institutions in the government would also have the same responsibility, actually more responsibility, of having to ensure that they have the protection. They have all their systems are would be more advanced in terms of having to detect any security intrusions, for example, or cyber criminals trying to hack their system, whatever. But in fact, one of the things that I think Philippines would have one of the most, if not the most, with the most number of regulations pertaining to cyber security.
Sure.
Coming from the BSP, for example, a series of circulars on top of our very stringent Data Privacy Act, for example, that has been patterned after the EU, the GPDR. So I think these are some of the safeguards or safety nets, and making sure that all institutions that are regulated must conform, must comply, and practically the investments being poured into that cybersecurity to make sure that you're always protected, 2 or 3 steps ahead of those fraudsters. And because you have aside from reputational risk, you have financial risk, you have practically all the risks attendant to that. That's why so much resources, so much attention, so much energy are actually poured into having to secure our consumers every day.
That's just on the consumer side. What about, like, for example, money laundering? I mean, you mentioned Singapore a while ago. Singapore was also in the news recently for uncovering this massive laundering scam. I mean, it's low tech, right? Because they're selling, they're flipping condos, jewelry, watches, things like that. But it seems like all of that becomes much more easier when things are digital. So what are the protections that are being talked about so that we watch out for things like that as well?
The other side of the coin here, going digital is also good because there's so much transparency there, right?
Okay.
There is an audit trail, right? Instead of having to have a manual thing, manual transaction, right? So there's, in real time, you could really see the audit trail. You can see the actual transaction. There's so much transparency there, and I think that is something that, as I've said, it's really more about having to make use of all these platforms, all this technology for good, right? But on the other side of that is definitely how the evil actors are also making use of that supposed technology.
They can be as creative as
precisely for evil purposes, right? Yeah. So that's why I think that's why you have to have that balance, right? So, and of course, the doing good must always prevail, right? So,